Niranjanam Nityam Anantarupam Bhaktanukampa Dhritavigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidyam Tang Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama Jananim Saradam Devim Ramakrishnam Jagatgurum Padapadme Tayo Sritva Pranamami Muhurmuhu Namasri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Surai Satchid Sukhaswarupaya Swami Tapaharine. So, we will be continuing with our study of Karma Yoga of Swami Vivekananda, and we are studying the very first chapter of Karma Yoga, Karma in its effect on character. So, the last class where we ended, we find that Swami Vivekananda, as we told, was always having the Indian scriptures in the background of his mind. So when he is speaking of that our day-to-day actions, how it results in our destiny, he was actually having in the background of his mind the Yoga Shastra, the Patanjali Yoga Sutra, where in a gist, while describing the process of karma and its effect, we will find very nicely it has been described in Patanjali Yoga Sutra that how karma binds us. That karma, any action, just in a gist, let us to have the background of today's discussion. In a gist, let us try to understand the idea of karma and karma phala, as has been enunciated in the Yoga Shastra. That how we transmigrate and how our future births are determined by the actions which we do in our day-to-day life. In the Yoga Sutra, they say there are two types of karma. One, they term it as klishta, and another is aklishta. With actions with klesha, with the afflictions. What are they? That when I am doing with the sense of individuality, with the ego, when the ego is intact in me, that I consider my psychophysical existence to be my real identity, then three things happen. That whatever is favorable for my psychophysical existence, I get drawn towards it, I get attached towards it. That's raga. And whatever is not favorable, whatever is not pleasurable to my psychophysical existence, the response is in the form of fight and flight response, fight or flight response. If I find that the thing which is not pleasant, not favorable to my psychophysical existence, I try to get rid of it. I hate it. And if it is too powerful, I find it will be overpowering me. I myself run away from it. So it is a fight and flight response, which in the Yoga Shastra is termed as dvesha and abhinivesha. Abhinivesha actually means tremendous attachment to life. That actually we know that though we can get rid of so many impediments in our day-to-day existence, but at last we cannot get rid of death. That in this world of uncertainties, one thing is certain. We don't know when, but the death is there waiting for us. And that is a thing which we don't like. And as a result, what happens? We are constantly in our life, instinctively, is always afraid of death. Even in the scriptures, they say there's those who think that they are spiritually very much established. If suddenly they're in a situation where they find that their life is in danger, suddenly they feel that the impulse to save himself automatically, spontaneously just comes up. So that's the abhinivesha which has been spoken of. So when we are doing the actions with these three afflictive mode of our existence, constantly, throughout our day-to-day activities, these are the three afflictive mode of our action. This raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. They are always, we are behind almost all our actions. So the Yoga Shastra says a very interesting thing, that when we are doing karma, when we are doing actions, it's not the action that binds us. It's the kleshas, is raga, dvesha, abhinivesha, and all the emotive faculties that evolve from that, which are linked with our actions. That is the cause of our bondage. It's not the action by itself. So if the actions are aklishta, which is non-afflictive, it won't bind us. Just when I am, say, looking at a person who is passing by the road, I'm totally indifferent towards him. I neither have any attachment, nor any hatred, nor any fear for him. It's just a passerby. There is no question of any affliction. So there is no question of any bondage from such type of knowledge. But when the knowledge is klishta, those actions are the thing which is binding us in chains of karma. So karma in general is klishta and aklishta. Now we have to take care of these klishta karmas, all the actions which are afflictive. Because any action we do, any thought we have in our mind, it's not lost. Immediately it gets saved. It gets saved as your memory. As sanskara, it gets saved as latent impressions. And whenever it finds favorable circumstances, it comes back again as the memory. So we find in our life that today I have tasted some delicacy, and I most probably I forgot about it, and someone again brings it, and just by seeing itself, I find that I'm already lured by it. The memory of enjoying that comes back, and immediately I go for it. So the memory, the sanskara results in memory. The klishta, all the klishta actions with klesha, results in klishta sanskara, and the klishta sanskara in turn results in klishta smriti. And as long as we are doing actions with the afflictions, all these sanskaras at last is getting stored in our mind, which in the Yoga Shastra, they speak of it as vasanas. These terms are very important. People generally be confused with all those terms. Vasanas are that latent impressions. For lives together they are stored. But very interesting thing. Just in a funny way, we generally give that example, that if we believe in evolution, in some past life, most probably we were some grazing animal. Just for the sake of example, let us take. And the grass was the thing on which was our staple diet. That's the thing on which we used to thrive. And naturally, we had the vasana in that birth, the sanskara and the vasana for the grass, the liking for the grass. Now, if it is there in the psyche, if nothing is lost, as a human being, when I'm born, why don't I salivate seeing the green grass? So you will find that Yoga Shastra is very scientific. They say that this karma has two effects. One, in the individual, in my individual life, all the vasanas which are getting stored in my mind, that is always there. But that's not what which determines my character. My character is determined by what another factor is there. That is the collective factor. My actions, my sanskaras, which are predominant, that leads to my next circumstances or next birth. And as per that circumstances, whatever is favorable for that circumstances, only those vasanas infiltrate through your being to find to manifest in your psyche. All other things remain in your subconscious mind, not to come up as long as you are in that condition. So now you will understand, as a human being, the liking for the grass is not something which is favorable for the human birth. So what happens? That remains hidden. To give a common example, sometimes we find that, yes, to understand that also has become difficult. In our day-to-day life, even in this life, it happens. In the Yoga Sutra class, we were discussing it. It has some relevance to this class also. So let me take that example. Suppose a student who has developed the liking for study. He likes to study. So that sanskara for study has developed in that student. Now, as a result, as he or she has the liking for the studies, naturally, obviously, because of that good sanskara, he or she gets good grades. Now, as a student in the school, he or she has the liking for all the subjects. Now, because of the good grades, when he's in the 12th standard, now he or she has to go to the university. Now, he or she, because of her good grades or of his good grades, can choose some professional courses. Say he or she enters the medical course. The grades allows him. Now, what's the collective factor of karma which we were saying? The entire medical college is not the result of that student's karma. It is a collective effort of the entire society. They have built it up. It's your tax, it's the government, it's their decision that has built up. Now, my karma gravitates me there. It is because of my good actions, my liking for the study, my good grades, at last takes me there. Now I am in an atmosphere, in an environment where this, which will help me to become a doctor in another 5-6 years, whatever it may be. Now, when I am in the medical college, a wonderful thing happens. In the school, I had the liking for all the subjects. I was good in the language group. I was good in the social studies. I was good in all the science subjects, mathematics, whatever may be the subjects. I was good. I liked them. But the moment I entered the medical college, I am a medical student. Now, my jati is I am a medical student. There's a particular duration. I have to stay there for 5-6 years. There's the ayu and a bhoga. What's that? Now, because I'm a medical student, though I had the liking for all the subjects in the school, now they all get shadowed. Only the liking of the medical science, the biological science, that only gets the prominence. That manifests in my mind. All other remains hidden for the time being. Most probably much later in my life. In my school days, along with the studies, most probably I had the liking for music. Some instrumental music I started learning. I was quite passionate about it. But because of my studies, when I was in the medical college, that got shadowed. And now, much later in my life, when I have a bit more relaxed time, suddenly I will find that desire now comes back. It was hidden. So now you will understand that how the karma works. It has two effects. One, with the sanskara, I developed liking for certain things. And as per the prominence of those likings, I am gravitated to some environment where that liking will be materialized, will be fulfilled. I will get that scope. That's why the term in the Yoga Sutra they use for explaining that collective aspect is karma ashaya. Ashaya means receptacle. Your karma takes you to a receptacle where all the sanskaras which are favorable for that type of circumstances, that only will fructify, that will manifest in your life. Others remain hidden. So now this entire explanation, in short, we try to understand that what's the idea of karma and its effect as has been spoken of in the Yoga Shastra, how they describe the process of transmigration. That's why they say vasanas are innumerable, but only those which are favorable to this birth, they manifest. Others remain hidden. It's not that they are not there. If again, because of some my wrong actions, I have to take as a birth as an animal, again those vasanas which are favorable for the animal birth, they will manifest. They're already there. So from this discussion, one thing is very clear, very palpable, that in human life or in any life, when we just blame the circumstance, We say, oh, such and such person has been born in with a golden spoon in his mouth with such and such circumstances. If I was in that position, I would have done much better. I would have gotten better scope. And we generally start blaming the circumstances. So here now, the paragraph which we are going to read today, Swamiji is saying a very interesting thing, that don't blame the circumstances. Whenever you are thinking that such and such circumstances would have helped me, just think otherwise. Am I fit to be in that circumstance? Have I really grown the capacity to be in that circumstance? So even that, that they say in a particular birth, you have to go through particular experiences. That's why I'm just saying that, suppose I got chance, that let us take that old example, that I got chance in the medical college. I have started my course there. Now there are many students. Some just will be going through the course very smoothly because they really have that intense love for the studies. And that helps them even to pass through that course very smoothly. But some who somehow entered, it was not that the grades were very good, but yes, somehow he entered. And as he or she doesn't have that proper skills to continue with the course, you will find that they're struggling. That they are actually struggling, they lose 1 or 2 years and they take more time to complete the course. It happens everywhere. So what it speaks of, that it's not only the environment, whether I am up to it, that also is a big question. Have developed. If I'm not just up to a particular situation, I'm placed there, I can make nothing out of it. So instead of repenting that, oh, I haven't got the scope, I should rather ask that whether I am fit for that. In our order, whenever we read, when we join, and when we read the lives of the direct disciples, and naturally it happens with many, when we read the uplifting lives of the direct disciples of Ramakrishna, their life in Baranagar, and suddenly that craving comes. Oh, I am so unfortunate. If I was born in that time, and if I was there among those direct disciples, constantly association with them, oh, how wonderful it had been. Whenever we express such type of our desire, the senior swamis we have found many times will ask a simple question: do you really think you are up to it? You just feel that as if you were in that atmosphere, you would have got the holy company of so many, these galaxies of illumined soul. But have you ever considered the life, the privations, the tremendous renunciation, the austerities they were going through? If you were there, you also had to go through all those things. Where do you think you would have managed with that type of austere life with the privations? So there comes, are you up to it? To enjoy that company, I really have to be up to it. Have I developed that sanskara? It's not that easy to be in that company without already have developed the proper sanskaras to be in that type of situation. So it's very important always in our life that instead of blaming the circumstances, let us take it in this way. That in whatever situation I may be, why not I utilize it to the best of my ability, so that the circumstances will be there waiting for me in future, where I will be there in much in a better environment, and then I will get the scope. I will have the skills as well as the scope to use my faculties to evolve, to just evolve in my spiritual life as well as the secular life. Both will be possible if I try to develop those skills. So with these ideas in the background, now let us try to enter into the lecture which Swami Vivekananda is delivering on this topic. All this is determined by karma, work. No one can get anything unless he earns it. This is an eternal law. We may sometimes think it is not so, but in the long run, we become convinced of it. A man may struggle all his life for riches, he may cheat thousands, but he finds at last that he did not deserve to become rich, and his life becomes a trouble and a nuisance to him. We may go on accumulating things for our physical enjoyment, but only what we earn is really ours. A fool may buy all the books in the world, and they will be in his library, but he will be able to read only those that he deserves to. And this deserving is produced by karma. So now you will understand where Swami Vivekananda is what the ideas, the scriptural ideas, is having in his mind. That the karma has two effects. One is creating the liking, the sanskara, and another is creating the environment. It is our karma which takes us to the environment. Unless we are up to it, that environment won't help us. That nice example he's giving, that with money, I suppose I have money, but I don't have the passion for studies. I'm not I have money, but I don't have much passion for learning. With the money, I can buy books, but what's the use? If I buy all the books of the medical science, of psychology, of engineering, and keep it in my library, I have never developed myself from my childhood to really go through those books. Will those books help? They will simply lie there. So that's the idea Swamiji is saying, that it's not just to get the environment. You have to have sufficient skills to really get the maximum benefit out of that environment. Our karma determines what we deserve and what we can assimilate. We are responsible for what we are and whatever we wish ourselves to be. We have the power to make ourselves. If what we are now has been the result of our own past actions, it certainly follows that whatever we wish to be in future can be produced by our present actions. So we have to know how to act. So we started, if you remember, with that idea. In the very first paragraph, the line which we stressed very much, where that is, but karma yoga, we have simply to do with the karma meaning work, not the result of karma. Because we don't have any control over the result which we have already started yielding, which the result which has started yielding. But we have full control over the actions which at present I am responsible for. I have full control over that. So to be just totally do all those actions in the best possible way that naturally will decide my future course. Instead of wasting my time by repenting about my past and anticipating about my future, let me just give full attention to the present, take the best advantage of the present, because that alone is in my hand. I cannot just decide my future just by thinking of it, just by worrying about it. Most of the time we waste by worrying. And I still remember when I was in India in school, there was a board where every day the message has to be written. And one message I never forget. One day the message written, the student's duty was there to write it. So that day I never knew who wrote it. But it was a very nice message. What it was written, that worrying is like a rocking chair. You do something, but you go nowhere. It's like a rocking chair. You do something, but you go nowhere. In the same place, you are just rocking. That result has no destination. And that's what happens with our life. Instead of being proactive, instead of trying to really prepare our destiny, we just go on worrying about the future. And that in no way is going to help us. And that's what Swamiji is saying very nicely. If what we are now has been the result of our own past action, it certainly follows that whatever we wish to be in the future can be produced by our present actions. So we have to know how to act. You will say, what is the use of learning how to work? Everyone works in some way or other in this world. But there is such a thing as frittering away our energies. With regard to Karma Yoga, the Gita says that it is doing work with cleverness and as a science. By knowing how to work, one can obtain the greatest results. Swami Vivekananda here is referring to that phrase of the Gita. What's that? Yoga, karmasu, kaushalam. Yoga, karmasu, kaushalam. That what is yoga? To do the action with dexterity. The same action done with a particular attitude can lead in bondage. The same action, again, done with a different attitude, can lead in liberation. So it's not the action, but it's the attitude behind it. How I am doing it. What I am doing is not important. How I am doing it, that becomes important. And that speaks of Karma Yoga. And that's what Swamiji is referring to. So the Gita says that it is doing work with cleverness and as a science. By knowing how to work, one can obtain the greatest result. Now Swamiji is gradually coming to the real Karma Yoga. Means here, till now he was speaking of all karma in general. I do with sincerity, I develop more skills, and that decides my future. But there's a particular attitude of doing work. You develop skill, that is one side, and a particular attitude. And Karma Yoga speaks of that attitude. So Swamiji is now entering into that what should be the attitude which speaks of our cleverness of doing the same action, which instead of binding us, will liberate us. You must remember that all work is simply to bring out the power of the mind, which is already there, to wake up the soul. The power is in every man. So in knowing the different works are like blows to bring them out, to cause these giants to wake up. Again, Swamiji is having this yoga philosophy, Patanjali yoga philosophy in his mind when he's saying that. In Yoga Sutra, in the 4th chapter, the idea is very nicely told that nature has infinite powers, infinite possibilities, and we all inherit that nature. It has infinite possibilities. All our actions is not to acquire something new. It's already there. All our actions have the secondary mode of action. What's that? It helps to remove the barrier. The barrier is removed, the nature has its own potential to manifest and to really create some wonder. And the Yoga Sutra gives a wonderful example. What's the example? It's the example of a farmer. How the farmer brings water to its field. There's a river flowing by the side of the village, and all the farmers avail the water of the river for their farming, but there's a dam. So what they do, they just create a hole in the dam and just create a passage. The water just flows into the field through that passage. What he has done, he need not have to have his own effort to pump the water from the river. The river with its force is already flowing. You just create a small hole and a passage for the water to just come and flood your field. So that's the example which Patanjali Yoga Sutra gives in the 4th chapter. That like a farmer removing the obstacles, we have to remove our actions, remove the obstacles. The nature already is all powerful. All the faculties, all the capacities which we can do is already there in our nature. It's just like a seed. Just take a seed, a small seed, the moment you plant it on the soil. Now the soil has inherent capacity. All the minerals, all the nutrients, water, everything is in the soil. Now, but as per the seed is concerned, a particular seed, we say the plant grows from the seed. But actually, does it grow from the seed? No. You also will agree with me The seed is just like a gateway. All the nutrients, the minerals, water, everything which is in the soil, the seed decides what all to gather in, to assimilate and grow in a particular way. That's why we say such and such fruit is rich in potassium. Such and such vegetable is rich in these other nutrients. Why? What happens? That seed, from where that nutrients came, was it in the seed? No. It was in the soil. The soil is like that Prakriti. This particular seed of a particular plant decides in what way to gather only specific nutrients, which decides the jati, the species of that plant. It will just take those nutrients, and then from those nutrients, the plant will grow in a particular way. So that's why we can never get a mango from some apple tree. Each tree has its own way of growing, but the nature is the same. The soil, the same soil from which each and every plant is gathering the nutrients and assimilating in its own way to grow up. So that's the thing which we have to keep in mind when we read this line. You must remember that all work is simply to bring out the power of the mind, which is already there. Like the mother nature, it's already there. Just like the seed taking the nutrients from the soil. The soil has it's a storehouse of all the nutrients. Similarly, the Prakriti is the storehouse from where our mind, each and every particular mind, takes the things as per its own inclination to grow its own future. So you must remember that all the work is simply to bring out the power of the mind, which is already there to wake up the soul. The power is inside every man. So is knowing. It is already there. The different works are like blows to bring them out. You're removing the obstacle to cause these giants to wake up. Man, now let us go to the next paragraph. Man, now he's coming to the real, the dexterity, the real attitude, which speaks of our cleverness, to use the same action which binds us, which takes us spirally downwards. The same action, by changing the attitude, can take us spirally upwards towards liberation. So what's that attitude? Now Swamiji is gradually entering when he's delivering the lecture as per the next paragraph. Man works with various motives. There cannot be work without motive. Some people want to get fame and they work for fame. Others want money and they work for money. Others want to have power and they work for power. Others want to get to heaven and they work for the same. Others want to leave a name when they die, as they do in China, where no man gets a title until he's dead. And that is a better way, after all, than with us. When a man does something very good, there they give a title of nobility to his father who is dead, or to his grandfather. Some people work for that. Some of the followers of certain Mohammedan sects work all their lives to have a big tomb built for them when they die. I know sects among them. As soon as a child is born, a tomb is prepared for it. That is among them the most important work a man has to do. And the bigger and the finer the tomb, the better off the man is supposed to be. Others work as a penance, do all sorts of wicked things, then erect a temple or give something to the priests to buy them off and obtain from them a passport to heaven. They think that this kind of beneficence will clear them and they will go scot-free in spite of their sinfulness. Such are some of the various motives for work. So he's describing that the motives with which we work, that in the name of spirituality, the things which we do actually speaks of gross materialism. In some other place, Swamiji is defining that what is spirituality and what is materialism. That where God is the means, world is the end, it is materialism. For most of us, you will find that God is just the means. We are just shopkeeping with God. That I have devotion not just for the love for Him. I have love for something else. So that's why most of the time what happens, our spirituality is misdirected. We don't uh, get God. We get the things which we want, because God was just the means to get all those things. So here Swamiji is indicating that real spirituality is just the opposite. What's the opposite? Where world is the means, God is the end. The same actions which I was doing doesn't stop. I continue with them, but my motive has changed. Now the actions lead me gradually to the divine. Very nicely, one of the quotations of Ramakrishna, which is not exactly in the gospel, the Srima is referring to it again and again. In his Srima Darshan, we find that the sadhu, that very nicely Ramakrishna used to say that all don't pretend to be a holy man, be a holy man. And pretend to be a householder, don't become an householder. সংসারী সাজবে সংসারী হবে না, সাধু হবে সাধু সাজবে না. Very interesting that we just do the opposite. In the name of spirituality, we just try to resort to some type of practices that actually shows off that I'm spiritual, but it has nothing to do with my real spirituality. And we get very much involved in our materialistic life. So what Ramakrishna is saying, the same thing Swamiji is saying. In the materialistic life, don't suddenly renounce the things. Continue with that. Let people feel you are totally engrossed with them. But if in the bottom of your heart, in your mind, you know, you are doing them with total detachment. So the same actions are resorted to. This with detachment when you do, then it aims at what? It takes you to that spiritual evolution. So how you're doing, so all the things which Swamiji is saying, there's nothing to explain that with all the motives we do, it is all palpably visible in this world. There's so many different motives, some for name, for fame, for power, for having this, and this name and fame doesn't end only in this life. Even to have a good memorial tomb after my death, that can be the motive of my work. So this name and fame is something which even continues after my death, for which I may go on, with that motive I may go on doing my work. So now in the next paragraph, now Swamiji comes to the real karma yoga. Work for work's sake. There are some who are really the salt of the earth in every country, and who work for work's sake, who do not care for name or fame or even to go to heaven. They work just because good will come of it. There are others who do good to the poor and help mankind from still higher motives, because they believe in doing good and love good. The motive for name and fame seldom brings immediate results. As a rule, they can come to us when we are old and have almost done with life. If a man works without any selfish motive in view, does he not gain anything? Yes, he gains the highest. Unselfishness is more paying, only people have not the patience to practice it. This again is a very important line. Unselfishness is more paying, only people have not the patience to practice it. It is more paying from the point of view of health also. So how unselfishness is more paying? Very interesting. Suppose, take just an example of a musician. In every field, the same example goes. You can apply it in any field of life. A musician is practicing this music. Maybe it is instrumental or vocal, whatever it is practicing the music Now, constantly the aim is how I can become a good musician so that I can have a huge audience, name, and fame. With that, most probably is practicing. Let's take that's example A. And another is highly passionate about music, loves music, and with no such aim, with no such goal that I should have name and fame, I should have a huge audience. Not with that, just with the love of the music, he practices music. And then what happens, you will find in the long run, the one who has the passion for the music, he loves music for the sake of music, automatically gets name and fame. How it happens? It's a big paradox. Suppose you have learned a little of music and you got a scope to present in front of an audience. If you are aware of the audience, you're nervous about your presentation, most of your energy is dissipated in constantly anticipating how the people will accept me. And naturally, what happens because of the tension, because of the distraction, because of this anticipation, you can never give your attention to your own performance. And your performance is underrated. It is very natural. It's bound to happen. And just think of the other musician. He, because of his skills or her skill, he got the scope to play in front of a huge audience. But the moment he or she starts presenting the music, he or she gets lost in her own music. He or she forgets about the audience, totally gets absorbed in the music. He or she has no expectation that the people should like it. His or her love for the music, whatever may be the situation, whenever he or she presents, she gets totally absorbed. And now it's just, you can easily imagine what's going to happen. As the total absorption is in their music, a flow has ensued. The question of tension, the question of anticipation, expectation, nothing arises, is totally absorbed, and the perform is bound to be something wonderful. And what the thing which I have never thought, that comes spontaneously. The name, fame, everything comes spontaneously. So now, just this is one example which happens in every field of life. When I am passionate about the thing I am doing, and that passion makes me forget about all the circumstances. And then what happens, as I'm totally dedicated to it, the biases falls off. I'm totally doing it with full focus. The result automatically is something great, and that makes me an asset instead of a liability. Wherever I'm working, in whatever institution, the more I am having the love for the work, the more it speaks of my developing that asset. Because other things have fallen off because of my passion for that. And that's how unselfishness is more paying. If we forget about the expectations, the thing which I'm doing, let me do it with full heart. Let me forget about all the things which constantly distracts me in the form of expectation. It's bound to yield result in the future. But we don't have the patience. From the very beginning, what happens? That our motive, that whether we will get the maximum advantage of it or not, whether people will recognize me or not, that's the thing which goes on distracting us. Ramakrishna is to give a wonderful example that how this unselfishness really helps us to do anything wonderfully, more skillfully. The example is like this, that two amateurs were playing chess, and the third person was just an onlooker. And now, very interesting, it was found that whenever these two players are faltering in their moves, the one who is the onlooker constantly saying the correct move. Hey, don't go that way. It is going to defeat you. And the two players are constantly discouraging him. Don't say the moves. Let us play. And so the other person thought that this third man who is the onlooker must be a very good player. Now, after some time, the roles change. The one who was the onlooker becomes the player, and one of the player who was faltering in steps becomes the onlooker. And immediately the things change. The one who was saying the correct moves, the moment he or she starts playing, he or she starts faltering. The one who is the onlooker, the previously was the player, now he or she, you will find, is saying the correct steps. Ramakrishna, after this example, is saying a wonderful thing. What happens? The moment you are playing, more than half of our mind is engaged with the expectation, I have to win. Is full of fear, anticipations, I may lose. And that doesn't allow you to concentrate on the game. The onlooker has nothing to do with the winning or losing. His or her total mind is on the game. And as a result, he or she can see the correct moves. So in this life, know it for certain, the more, because of unselfishness, the more we can become unbiased. There is nothing called right and wrong in this life. It is all our biases that decides what is right and wrong. Whenever you hear in any of the big tournaments, because of some unwanted situation, there was a quarrel or fight has developed among the players, and that spreads among the audience, among the spectators. And maybe there's a huge fight, gang fight like something, and then the media goes to take the interview. You'll find a very interesting thing. No one says that I was wrong. Both the side, they will say the main fault is because of the other party. Whenever there is riot, whenever there is any confrontation, have you ever seen anyone saying I was wrong? And it's not that they are just building up a story. They say it with full sincerity that I was correct. Both the parties are saying. What happens? It is our biases that controls our psyche in such a great way. No one thinks there is wrong. They are wrong. It is our perspective, our bias that decides what is right, what is wrong. And that's the fight is actually with the perspectives, not with the real right or wrong thing. That's all what is going on. So what's the thing? The more we get rid of the bias, the more the real things become palpably clear. Even in the last class, we were giving that example, how bias distorts our vision, clouds our vision. A stump lying in a distance in a park in the evening when a thief was running away, was just trying to flee off. Suddenly was running away, was trying to escape and sees the stump at a distance and thinks it to be the police. The police who was in search of the thief, think they seeing the stump in the twilight hours, the quiet light was not there, thinks it to be the thief. The police thinks it to be the thief thinks it to be the police. A person who was about to meet his sweetheart thinks it to be the sweetheart. So what is happening? As per the bias, the real nature of the thing is getting clouded. The more we can remove the bias, the more the truth becomes palpably visible. And that's the thing which in karma yoga happens. The more we become unselfish, the more the skills develop, because we can really focus on the thing which we are doing. All the distractions falls off and we really start excelling. And the net result, it is going to pay. Though I was not bothered about, I was not much interested about the recognition, about all the the benefits which I are going to get from that. I was not much bothered. But my passion for the thing automatically brings them. So when I'm doing karma without any desire, this is a big paradox of life. The more we have desire for the thing, the desire eludes us. The more we try to get rid of the things, they just follow you. In this world, it happens again and again. The more you say, I don't want, they will follow you. You need not have to hanker after them. And the more you're hankering after them, they will elude you. So that's why unselfishness is more paying. Only people have not the patience to practice it. It is more paying from the point of view of health also. Yes, this sentence makes me remember one of our center, the Ramakrishna Mission Seva Pratishthan, the first hospital center of our order. I won't say the first hospital center. Previously they were of Suskankal and other. It is one of the very important centers, because in Calcutta in those days, where the rate of infant mortality was very high, at that time Seva Pratishthan was established, and in those days the infant mortality rate was zero in that hospital, and that way it came to the news. It was one of the most renowned institution, and it has grown in 75 years. So when in the 75th year, when there was a celebration from the various centers, the various Swamis were invited. I also went from my center where I was there to attend that event. And the health minister in those days, the one who was the health minister of West Bengal, he was invited as the chief guest. And now in his lecture, we find a very interesting thing. Suddenly he told, "You Swamis are very clever." So we were just a bit taken aback why he's saying like that. And then he told a very interesting thing. We constantly thinking of my own selfish ends. We are so much concerned about my own life, my own future. Just by as I'm so much concerned, what happens by the time I'm in my midlife, in my 50s, I've developed blood pressure, sugar, and so many other lifestyle diseases. And you Swamis are constantly thinking of others, and you have enjoyed good health. So he was the health minister in a very ironical way. So then we understood what he doesn't mean the clever in a wrong way. It means that it's the same thing that Swamiji is saying here. The more we are thinking of others, the more you enjoy health. Why? The concerns about yourself has fallen off. You have entered into a flow. The best, even in psychology, if you go, the person who is extremely depressed, who is just not moving out, totally concerned with himself or herself, the first thing they tell, socialize, move out, try to think about others' problems, try to think in what small ways you can help others. That helps me psychologically. And we are all psychosomatic. The more healthy our psyche is, the more we enjoy health. We take so much care, even in this social isolation. Everyone is speaking of all the physical means, that wash your hands, do exercise, but what about the mind? If that is, the psyche is not taken care of, in spite of all the physical means which we take care of, know it for certain, at last, it is our worries, our tensions, which is going to affect our immunity. And again, that will make us more palpable to the diseases. So it is a psyche which actually speaks of our health. So when in Karma Yoga, when we forget about the expectations, we don't do any action being result oriented. As Swamiji told, that no action can be done without motive. So motive should be there. What's the motive? I do every action as a performance is a motivation, not the result. That any action which is in my hand, jan sadhan tan siddhi. If I have to wash my utensils, I will do it in the best possible way. In all the religions, this idea is there. In Christianity, there is a wonderful book, The Practice of Presence of God by Brother Lawrence. That again speaks of the same idea of Karma Yoga. He, as he was not a very highly scholarly person, though he was a monk, he was assigned the duty of dishwashing. That he cannot go for scriptural studies and all. So that's the work was assigned to him, and that made him a saint. That small booklet, The Practice of Presence of God, is so inspiring. Just to wash the dishes with the idea of feeling the presence of the God always with you, and do the thing perfectly, that God is with you, is watching for all the things which you are doing, is always accompanying you. All the work becomes service to him. With that love of God, with the feeling that palpable presence of the divine to your actions. The letters are so inspiring. That few letters which are there in the small book, you will find that the realized soul is speaking out. There is no such lot of scriptural knowledge in it. The simple way of life which he practiced, and that took him to the realization. In plain words, it's mentioned on those letters, and it's so inspiring. That's the idea which has been spoken of here. It's more paying from the point of view of health also. Love, truth, and unselfishness are not merely moral figures of speech, but they form our highest ideal, because in them lies such a manifestation of power. So this line again makes me remember of Holy Mother's one statement. After the First World War, when the United Nations was found much later, but yeah, something, the parent body, something of United Nations, I forget the exact name, it just formed. And there was a peace treaty. And it was, someone came and reported to Holy Mother. The unlettered lady, she as such, as per our modern standards is concerned, she is almost illiterate. Someone came and told her, Mother, have you heard that? There won't be any more wars. Why? What has happened? All the warring nations has came to a peace treaty. And immediately, Holy Mother's reaction was wonderful. O to oder mukher kotha. Means it is just their lip service, the lip words coming from their lip. Is it coming from the bottom of their heart? All this, even in the present day, we will find that all our attempts to peace actually fails because we take them to be just merely moral figures of speech. Love, truth, unselfishness are not merely moral figures of speech, but they form our highest ideal, because in them lies such a manifestation of power. If we really don't believe in them and just work contrary to what we just speak out, then the result is going to be grave. As Sri Ramakrishna used to say, when, in those days, we find this with a spiritually illumined soul, their words are so simple but so profound. Even in the present world, we find that we hear always this statement, there is nothing called this absolute truth. Truth is relative. The way I see the world, accordingly, the truth is relative. There is no absolute truth. Someone told Ramakrishna that, is there no absolute truth? Ramakrishna's answer was wonderful. He told, yes, there is something called absolute truth. And we will be expecting from a person like Ramakrishna, most probably he will be speaking of God as the absolute truth. No, he never went on those lines. What he told is a statement which appears to be very, very casual. It has nothing to do with spirituality, as if. He told there is something called absolute truth. What is that? Lonka khele jhal lagbe. If you eat chili, you are bound to have that hot sensation. So what has to do with the absolute truth? So if you just reflect on that sentence, a wonderful idea will come out. Now, when you are having your meals, you're sitting at the dining table, most probably in a separate plate, a few chilies have been kept. But it's my choice. I may have it, I may not have it. But I will take a chili, I will have it. Someone told me that it tastes, I still remember, it happened. In Sydney, one of our American Swami came, and the Indian Swami was just having chili with the food. The way he was having, he thought it is not that hot. He asked, is it that hot? He told, no, it's just like cucumber. So he took, and immediately we found his total head was sweating. It was full of sweat. So what the idea is, if you take it, if you eat it, now you cannot say that, oh, I just don't want that hot sensation. Well, if you don't take it, well and good, you don't have. But if you take it, you're bound to have that hot sensation. What has it to do with the absolute truth? When we say in this life so many things, I don't believe, the results are not going to be the contrary just because of your belief. If I say I don't believe in gravitation, it's all bogus, and I just jump out of a 20-story building thinking I will fly, are you going to fly? Gravitation is there, it is there to crush you, you are going to die. The idea is, the truth is truth. It is my choice whether I just believing that truth, I conform to it or don't conform. It is my choice. I may take the chili, I may not take the chili, but I will have it and there won't be any hot sensation. That's not going to happen. In this life, again and again, it has been proven in the history. What happens in our attempt to break the laws, either in a crude way like a criminal or in a diplomatical way like in the global politics, sometimes it happens, we all know. Again and again, the history will prove it. We need not have to go for a specific example. It goes on happening again and again. Know it for certain. The result is there, which is fixed. That we cannot change just by thinking that I have somehow diplomatically dealt with it by saying something good words, but my intentions were something else. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to say the entire education, so-called academic education, is just like a vulture soaring high up in the sky. A vulture soars very high up in the flies very high up in the sky, but its total focus is on the carrion, the rotten flesh is lying on the ground somewhere in the dungeon. So sometimes it happens like that for us with all our educations. We soar high, our language is flowery, we speak wonderful words, but the intention, the focus is on the carrion. So that's why in Swamiji, how nicely he's saying, these are not mere moral figures of speech, but they form our highest ideal, and we have to decide whether we have to adhere to them or not. After all, it is we who are annihilated. Even in the present situation, we will find when we thought that we are the masters of the nature is showing us it has its own way to rejuvenate. It has its own way to continue. And we are not indispensable. It is we who will be totally removed if we don't just conform to the laws, which is already there, like the law of gravitation. We cannot break them. And that's why in our scriptures, very nicely, very nice, this particular, even what to speak, we don't have to go for sentence. Even particular words are very great. The ultimate reality is spoken of as Om, the absolute reality. When it finds expression as the universe, it finds expression as energy, Shakti, Rim. The Vachaka of Shakti is Rim. It's energy. But that energy is not chaotic. It always finds expression as laws. And that laws are truth. That's why in Sanskrit, that laws, the truth, which finds expression in the phenomenal world, is called rhythm. It is very similar to the English word rhythm. Actually, the English word rhythm came from this Sanskrit, root, rhythm. So there is some laws which we cannot break. So once we understand that, the entire idea of Bhagavad Gita is also that doing action in a detached way doesn't mean to be just to do the action in a detached sense. Actually, there's a higher purpose to understand the laws of the nature, the laws of the divine, which is finding expression as the laws of nature. To understand, to fully resign to that and work as an instrument of that laws. That's the real idea of the Karma Yoga in the Bhagavad Gita. We will elaborate it in gradually. Here Swamiji is speaking of that. This love, truth, and this unselfishness. These are the laws of life. As again and again in the last class also we gave some hints that it is that we have the idea that struggle for existence, survival of the fittest is the theory of evolution. But now in the modern days, we don't go into it. They're speaking in some different language. It is not the struggle. It is a synergy. It is a win-win situation where we are cooperating with each other. We are forgetting about myself and giving more importance to you. You know how the redwood trees survive in their forest? The redwood trees, the huge trees which lives for hundreds of years, their roots are very shallow. They never go deep. They're on the surface. A little storm is supposed to uproot it, but it never gets uprooted. It stays. It just withstands all the vagaries of the nature. How it does it? Because the moment a small sapling of the redwood comes, just grows, immediately all the elderly redwood trees which are nearby, they make it a point to intertwine its root with their root. And it forms a huge beam, though it's very shallow, a huge beam has formed. And now that gives the foundation, the strength to withstand any natural disasters, any natural vagaries of nature. It has the strength to withstand that. What has happened? It's the cooperation. If you take that struggle for existence, my own strength, with that I survive, I would have been annihilated. It is just the cooperation, it's the unselfishness that made them. It's not only one. Thousands of such examples are being now taken to explain that it was the win-win situation that has enabled us, all the creatures, to survive. The more we have that synergy, that synchronized energy, the more we can excel as far as the evolution is concerned. Because the whole, in the definition of synergy is, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. Take my limited energy, take your limited energy. When I just add it up, when we are together, it doesn't become 2 plus 2 as 4. It becomes something more. The whole is greater than the parts. It speaks of a huge quantum jump as per the energy is concerned, as per our capability to deal with the situation is concerned. It takes a huge quantum jump. And that has actually resulted in evolution. That's the law. They are the laws. They're not just mere figure of speech. The more we can keep it in our mind and just resign to that we cannot go the other way. If we just don't believe in them, we will break ourselves. We cannot break those rules. They are there. They will be there intact. We have to resign to them, follow them, and then only the real evolution is possible. So in the first place, a man who can work for 5 days or even 5 minutes without any selfish motive, whatever, without thinking of future, of heaven, of punishment, or anything of that kind, has in him the capacity to become powerful moral giant. So we have already exceeded the time these days. Sorry for that. So with this idea, let us stop the discussion today, that unselfishness is not just a matter of choice. This love, truth, unselfishness, these are the laws, the yajna, the sahayagya praja srishtvan. Bhagavad Gita, they say, when God created this creation, he created it with the idea of yajna, of interdependence, of cooperation. Unless we keep it in mind, unless we just take it to be the truth, not just a moral figure of speech, there cannot be any evolution in us nor in the world. So this, they are for my Atmana Moksha as well as for the Jagatita, both. So that's the idea with which let us conclude. We will continue with a few more paragraphs of this chapter in the next class. So with this, we conclude our discussion today. So I'm unmuting you all. So if you have any questions, you can just.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Namaskar. Namaskar.
Thank you,
Namaskar.
Swamiji.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Swamiji.
Thank you,
Swamiji.
Swamiji.
I'm ending the
Thank
class.
you.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
Namaskar.
Yeah.
Yes, I had a bit of a doubt.
Yeah,
You said karma creates our samskara, and the samskara in turn propels us towards certain kinds of karma, right?
certain types of karma. Yeah, that is one field, and another is it takes us, it gravitates us, even without our own conscious. What you say?
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, I'm coming. Yeah.
Okay, to certain circumstance where those sanskaras will be fructified. Yeah.
So, are we then not caught in a kind of trap? So, where does my agency come from? So, if my karma is not conducive to spiritual life, will it not create samskaras which further prevent me? towards going that way? Or am I missing something? Because you
Yeah,
also mentioned agency and how we have complete control over the present moment.
present moment. Yeah, that's the important thing. That what happens in just we will find that even if we just judge our own life, that how much time we waste just by repenting from our past and just thinking if I would have got a better scope, I would have done well, and we don't take care of the immediate present. It's most of the time, even if you just it's anywhere, you go to the jail, where a hardcore criminal, you will find they're also blaming their constantly. So here comes that we have that capacity, whatever situation we may be, to take the maximum advantage of the situation. In the first class, you must be. I was giving an example. Suppose uh, take two ladies. One, because of as she's rich, she has all the ingredients to just cook a very nice dish. And another is lady is a poor lady. She has very meager ingredients. But as she has developed the skill of cooking with a mere ingredient, she can cook something wonderful.
All right.
Lady with all those things may not prepare a wonderful food. So it's your intention with the present situation that actually speaks how you are going to excel. So karma is not actually what you have, means what you do with what you have, that is more important in karma yoga.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Swamiji.
you, Swami.
Namaskar. So I'm ending the class today now.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Swamiji.
Thank you.